The human clutched her against him. The Warlord's dying command made their love forbidden. The plasma restraints burned against Commander Asher Kane's wrists as guards dragged him through corridors reeking of recycled air and alien sweat. 3 days since capture, and they still hadn't broken him. Massive doors hissed open, revealing Supreme Warlord Morvak Thex propped against cushions on a raised platform. Once mighty frame withered by disease, tubes snaking from his arms to humming medical devices. His ancient eyes fixed on Asher with predatory interest. "The human who cost me 3 battalions at Kepler Station," Morvak wheezed. "I prefer the human who saved 200,000 civilians," Asher replied, meeting his gaze. Grinding metal laughter emerged from Morvak's throat. Behind him, a figure stepped from shadows, and Asher's tactical assessment skills failed completely. War Captain Zelara Thex moved with predatory grace, emerald skin catching dim light like polished jade. Battle armor hugged dangerous curves, but her burning amber eyes held him, promising violence. Auburn hair pulled back revealed elegant earpoints and sharp jawline. "Father, this creature is not worth your time," she said, musical voice making the insult sound sensual. "Let me execute him." "Patience, daughter. This human thinks differently. At Kepler outnumbered 5-1, yet he turned our defensive positions against us." Zalara's eyes narrowed, studying him like a specimen. "Luck!" "Was it luck when he used our frequencies for false retreat signals? When he turned our bombardment satellites against our fleet?" Asher watched their interplay, noting Zalara's rigid posture, hands flexing at her sides. She wanted to hurt him. The realization sent unexpected heat through him. "Your tactics are crude but effective," she said, stepping closer. Cinnamon and steel scent reached him. "You fight without honor." "I fight to win. Honor doesn't resurrect the dead." Her hand moved to the humming blade at her hip. "Careful, human." "Zelara, observe, learn. This mind works differently than ours." She stepped back, eyes never leaving his face. He catalogued how anger made her nostrils flare, breathing quicken when frustrated. Beautiful and deadly, should have terrified him. "How did you know we'd position heavy cruisers defensively around the station?" Morvak asked. "Because it's what I would have done. You were protecting something valuable. The question wasn't whether you'd defend it, but how predictably." "Predictable," Zelara snarled, close enough now to see intricate tattoos spiraling her left arm. "Military honors. Father's strategies conquered 17 systems. Against enemies who think like you. Humans adapt. We lack overwhelming force or superior technology. We must be creative." Morvak leaned forward, eyes brightening. "Show me. The tactical display, Zelara. Proxima engagement." Her jaw tightened, but she activated the holographic projector. Air filled with stars and ship positions. Human forces held this system 6 months against siege, trapped, outnumbered, outgunned, yet escaped with minimal losses. How? Asher studied the display, mind analyzing automatically. They didn't escape, never intended to hold. The defense was theater. "Explain." "Look at positioning. They're not defending the planet, protecting evacuation routes. Every engagement made you commit more forces, while civilian transports slipped through hyperspace corridors you couldn't monitor." Zalara's hand moved from her weapon, tactical mind following despite herself. The mining stations. Decoys, automated systems broadcasting false signals while real evacuation happened from the moon's dark side. He looked directly at her. "Your father saw it too." Morvak's laughter became a coughing fit, spraying dark blood. Medical alarms chirped. Zelara rushed to his side, warrior mask slipping to reveal genuine fear. "Father? My time grows short. The genetic plague spreads too quickly." Healers said weeks. Healers lie for comfort. His gnarled hand touched her face. "Listen, daughter. Our people face choice. This war will destroy us both." Asher watched the intimate moment, cataloging raw emotion on Zalara's face. Love, desperation, fear beyond losing her father. "I've seen tactical projections. If we continue, even winning means catastrophic losses. Humans fight like cornered animals. They'll take half our fleet. Other enemies watch, waiting for weakness." "Then peace," Zelara said. "No, our people will never accept it. Too much blood spilled, too much honor lost." His eyes found Asher's. "Your species is too dangerous. You think in ways that threaten everything we understand about warfare, order." Medical alarms grew insistent. Zelara's breathing became shallow, panicked. "My final command," Morvak said, voice strengthening. "No member of our race shall ever trust a human. No alliance, no communication, no." His eyes flicked between Asher and Zelara, bonding of any kind. Humans driven from our territory never permitted return. This I command as my dying word. "Father." "Swear it, Zelara." Asher saw war across her features, duty against something unrecognized. Their eyes met across her father's dying form, amber gaze like physical touch. "I swear it," she whispered. Morvak smiled, satisfied. Alarms crescendoed, then fell silent. Supreme Warlord Morvak Thex was dead. In sudden quiet, only Zelara's breathing and distant engine hum. She remained motionless, staring at her father's still form. When she looked up, fury made the air crackle. "Guards, take the prisoner to his cell." As guards seized his arms, Asher caught her eye once more. Heat spiraled through his chest at what he saw. Rage, confusion, and beneath it all, something dangerously like recognition. Doors hissed shut, but he felt her gaze burning between his shoulders. War Captain Zelara Thex had sworn to honor her father's dying command. Whether that promise would prove stronger than whatever passed between them remained to be seen. Zelara stood in the command center at Zo 400 ship time, holographic displays casting blue light across her angular features. 2 days since her father's death, and sleep remained elusive. The fleet moved through hyperspace toward human territory, carrying out Morvak's final strategic directive. But something felt wrong. Battle Commander Voron approached, his heavy footsteps echoing in the nearly empty chamber. "War Captain, the automated systems have completed their analysis." "Report. The genocide protocol your father installed before his death. It's more extensive than initial scans indicated." Voron's voice carried unusual tension. "Not just military targets. Every human colony, outpost, civilian station within a 12-system radius." Zelara's hands stilled on the control surface. "Projected casualties?" 400 million. The number hit her like a plasma bolt to the chest. She'd known her father's final order would mean war, but this was extinction. "The protocol cannot be countermanded without human tactical codes," Voron continued. "The systems were designed to prevent sabotage." Human codes. The irony wasn't lost on her, and the only human we have is the prisoner, yes. Zelara closed her eyes, seeing again her father's dying words, feeling the weight of her oath. No bonding with humans, no communication. Yet 400 million lives hung in the balance. "Bring him here," she said quietly. "War Captain, your father's command." "I know what I swore." Her voice carried steel, "but I will not carry out genocide without understanding all options." 20 minutes later, guards escorted Commander Kane into the command center. He moved with controlled confidence despite the restraints, those calculating human eyes immediately assessing the tactical displays. She watched him catalog exit points, weapon placements, personnel positions, exactly what she would do in his place. "Impressive setup," he said, meeting her gaze directly, "though your security protocols could use work." "You are here because I require information," she replied, fighting the way his presence seemed to charge the air around them. "Nothing more." "Information about what?" She activated the genocide protocol display, watched his face change as he processed the scope, the timeline, the casualties. Whatever she'd expected, fear, anger, pleading, it wasn't the tactical analysis that sharpened his features. "Your father's final gift," he said quietly, "automated extermination. Can it be stopped?" "Why would you want to stop it?" His eyes searched hers. "Your people get what they want, total victory." "Answer the question." Asher stepped closer to the holographic display, his bound hands gesturing toward the command sequences. "The core programming is elegant. Multiple redundancies, quantum encryption, biometric locks tied to your command structure. Your father was thorough." "Can it be stopped?" she repeated. "Yes, but not by me alone." He turned toward her, close enough that she could see gold flecks in his brown eyes. "I'd need access to your tactical networks, real-time data on fleet positions, and at least 48 hours of unrestricted access to your primary systems." Voron stepped forward. "Absolutely not. The security risk is minimal compared to what happens if this succeeds." Asher interrupted. You think other species won't notice when humans disappear? You think they won't wonder who's next? Zelara studied the tactical projections, her mind working through implications. You would help us abort your species' destruction? I'd help you avoid becoming the galaxy's next pariah state. His voice carried conviction that made her pulse quicken. Genocide has consequences beyond the immediate victims. And what do you gain? 400 million people keep breathing. Something in his tone made her look at him more closely, including my sister's family on Proxima. Personal stakes. That changed calculations. Zelara dismissed Voron with a gesture, waiting until they were alone before speaking again. My father commanded that no member of our race should trust humans. Smart man, you probably shouldn't. His honesty caught her off guard. Yet you ask me to give you access to our most sensitive systems. I ask you to choose between blind obedience and informed command. He stepped closer, voice dropping. Your father was dying, Zelara, poisoned by rage and disease. Are you going to let his pain define your people's future? The use of her name sent heat spiraling through her chest. She should have struck him for the familiarity, but instead found herself studying the way shadows played across his jaw. You speak of my father with disrespect. I speak of him honestly. He was brilliant, ruthless, and absolutely committed to protecting his people. But this, Asher gestured toward the genocide display, this isn't protection. It's extinction of conscience. And you believe you understand conscience better than a warlord who conquered 17 systems? I believe conscience isn't conquered, it's chosen. His eyes held hers. Every day, every decision, every moment when you have to decide what kind of person you're going to be. Zelara felt something crack inside her chest, some wall she'd built around duty and honor. This human spoke of choice as if it were simple, as if duty and desire could coexist without tearing her apart. You know nothing of duty. I know plenty about it. His voice roughened. I chose to let myself be captured rather than watch your fleet glass 3 human colonies. Duty isn't always about following orders, Zelara. Sometimes it's about making the hard choice when orders are wrong. She moved closer without conscious thought, drawn by something in his voice, his presence, the way he said her name like a caress. You allowed capture? Your ships were positioned to bombard civilian targets if my fleet engaged, so I transmitted false retreat coordinates, let your forces take me, and fed your intelligence division carefully crafted misinformation to buy time. You sacrificed yourself for civilians. I did my job. But his eyes said more, spoke of calculations and risks and a burden she recognized, command decisions that weighed lives against lives. The command center felt smaller suddenly, the space between them charged with something dangerous. She could see his pulse in the hollow of his throat, steady despite circumstances, could smell something uniquely human, leather and determination and warmth. If I give you access, she said carefully, how do I know you won't sabotage more than the genocide protocol? Because 400 million lives matter more than tactical advantage. He paused, and because you'll be watching every keystroke. The proposal was madness. Her father's final command explicitly forbade this kind of cooperation. Yet the alternative was becoming the architect of extinction. 48 hours, she said finally. Under guard, any attempt at sabotage beyond the agreed parameters, and I execute you myself. Fair enough. Something like relief flickered across his features. When do we start? Now. Zelara began removing his restraints, her fingers brushing his wrists as the plasma bonds deactivated. The contact sent electricity up her arm, and she saw his eyes darken in response. Zelara. His voice held warning and promise in equal measure. This is tactical cooperation, she said firmly, stepping back. Nothing more. But as they moved toward the primary command console, she could feel the lie burning in her chest. Whatever was building between them had nothing to do with tactics and everything to do with the way he made her question everything she thought she knew about duty, honor, and choice. 18 hours into their collaboration, Zelara watched Asher's fingers dance across alien interfaces with disturbing ease. He'd adapted to their quantum encryption protocols faster than most of her own officers, finding pathways through code that should have taken days to decipher. "There," he said, highlighting a cascade of command sequences. "Your father embedded the genocide protocol in 17 different system cores. Each one has to be manually deactivated in sequence, or they'll trigger automatic retaliation protocols." Zelara leaned closer, studying the data streams. The proximity brought his scent, something warm and distinctly human that made her pulse quicken. How long for complete deactivation? "At least another 20 hours, maybe more if we hit complications." He turned toward her close enough that she could see exhaustion darkening his eyes. "But there's something else. Something I didn't expect." "Explain." "The protocol isn't just targeting human space. Look at these secondary coordinates." His fingers traced holographic star charts. Kethvar sector, Zelani outposts, 3 other non-aligned species. Zalara's blood chilled as she processed the implications. A galactic purge. Your father wasn't just eliminating humans. He was clearing the board of anyone who might challenge your people's dominance. Asher's voice carried grim admiration. "Brilliant. Terrifying, but brilliant." "This changes everything." She straightened, mind racing through political ramifications. "If other species learn we're planning to exterminate them, they'll unite against you, form coalitions, turn this into the kind of multi-front war that destroys civilizations." He met her eyes. "Is that what you want your reign to begin with?" The question hit her like a physical blow. Her reign. In all the focus on her father's commands, she'd barely processed that she was now the de facto leader of her people. The weight of that responsibility pressed against her chest. "I never wanted to rule," she admitted quietly. "But you're going to have to." Something in his tone made her look at him more closely. "The question is what kind of ruler you'll be." Before she could respond, proximity alarms began shrieking. Battle Commander Voron's voice crackled through the comm system. "War Captain to the bridge immediately. We have a situation." Zelara hesitated, looking at Asher. Leaving him alone with the systems violated every security protocol, but the alarms suggested immediate threat. "Go," he said. "I'll keep working. The timer doesn't stop for tactical emergencies." She sprinted toward the bridge, finding Voron bent over tactical displays showing multiple contacts approaching their position. Her heart hammered as she recognized the configuration. "Human fleet," Voron reported grimly. 12 ships, including their new Dreadnought-class vessel. They're demanding your prisoner's immediate release." "How did they find us in hyperspace?" "Unknown, but they're broadcasting on all frequencies, claiming Commander Kane is carrying vital intelligence that could prevent galactic war." Zelara stared at the tactical display, pieces clicking together with horrible clarity. The ease with which Asher had adapted to their systems, his detailed knowledge of the genocide protocol, his confidence that he could stop it. "He played me," she whispered. "The prisoner. This was planned." Fury and something that felt dangerously like betrayal burned in her chest. "Signal battle stations. Prepare for engagement." "Yes, War Captain." As klaxons wailed and her crew rushed to combat positions, Zelara raced back toward the command center. She found Asher exactly where she'd left him, still working at the console with focused intensity. "Very clever," she said, hand moving to her sidearm. "Let yourself be captured, convince me to give you system access, then signal your fleet our position." He looked up, confusion genuine. "What are you talking about?" 12 human ships just dropped out of hyperspace. They're demanding your release." She drew her weapon, the energy blade humming to life. "Did you think I was so easily manipulated?" "Zelara, I didn't—" Silence. But even as fury coursed through her, she noticed his hands were still moving across the interface, still working to deactivate the genocide protocol. If this was your plan, why continue the charade? "Because it's not a charade." His voice carried desperate intensity. "I don't know how they found us, but I didn't signal them. Check your sensor logs. When could I have transmitted anything?" She wanted to dismiss his words, but tactical training forced her to consider his logic. He'd been under constant observation, his access to external communications non-existent. "Then how—" The command center doors burst open. Voron strode in, weapon drawn and pointed at Asher. "Step away from the console, human." Voron, what are you doing? My duty. His eyes never left Asher, the duty your father commanded, which you seem to have forgotten. I gave specific orders to violate the Supreme Warlord's final directive, to trust our most dangerous enemy with our tactical systems. Voron's voice carried righteous anger. I cannot allow this betrayal to continue. Zelara felt the walls of command closing around her. Duty to her father's memory, loyalty to her officers, the weight of 400 million lives hanging in the balance. The human fleet, she said carefully. How did they find us? I signaled them, Voron admitted without shame. When I realized you intended to collaborate with the prisoner, I activated an emergency beacon. Our people deserve to know their war captain has been compromised. The betrayal hit her like a physical blow, not from Asher, but from her own second-in-command. The human had been honest with her from the beginning, while her most trusted officer had been working against her. You violated direct orders. I upheld the Supreme Warlord's final command. No bonding with humans, no trust, no communication. Voron gestured toward the console. Look what your cooperation has accomplished. You've given him access to our most sensitive systems. To prevent genocide, to prevent victory. Voron's finger tightened on his weapon's trigger. The humans must be eliminated, all of them. Your father understood this, even if you do not. In that moment, Zelara saw two paths diverging before her. One led toward blind obedience to her father's dying hatred, the other toward a choice that would define not just her reign, but her soul. She moved with the speed that had made her a legendary warrior, her blade slicing through the air to intercept Voron's weapon. The energy beam meant for Asher instead burned across the command center's ceiling. Stand down, Battle Commander. You choose the human over your own people. I choose conscience over blindness. She kept her weapon trained on Voron while addressing Asher. How much more time do you need? 6 hours, maybe less if I can access the primary core directly. Then we continue. She looked at Voron, seeing disappointment and disgust in his eyes. Confine yourself to quarters. Consider yourself relieved of duty. As Voron stalked from the command center, Zelara felt something fundamental shift inside her. She'd crossed a line that could never be uncrossed, chosen a path that would define everything that followed. Thank you, Asher said quietly. Don't thank me yet. She moved closer to the console, close enough to feel his warmth. We still have to survive the next 6 hours, and my people aren't going to forgive what I just did. Maybe forgiveness isn't the point, his eyes held hers. Maybe doing the right thing is enough. Is it? The question came out more vulnerable than she'd intended. When the right thing destroys everything you've been taught to believe? Then maybe what you were taught was wrong. He reached toward her face, stopping just short of contact. Maybe some things are worth the risk. The space between them crackled with electricity, with possibility, with the weight of choices that would reshape both their worlds. Zelara felt herself leaning into that touch that hadn't quite happened, drawn by something stronger than duty or honor or fear. Then proximity alarms screamed again, and the moment shattered like crystal against stone. The dreadnought Retribution filled the main viewer, its weapons arrays glowing with barely contained power. Zelara stood on her bridge, acutely aware of the human fleet's tactical superiority and the growing unrest among her own crew. Admiral Rebecca Cross of the Terran Defense Force, came the transmission. Release Commander Kane immediately, or we will take him by force. Zelara activated her comm channel, voice steady despite the chaos in her mind. Admiral Cross, this is War Captain Warlord Thex. Commander Kane is assisting with critical systems maintenance. Any aggressive action will result in his immediate execution. War Captain, Asher's voice crackled through her personal comm from the command center. I need to speak with Admiral Cross. There's something she needs to know. Against every instinct, Zelara opened a 3-way channel. You have 30 seconds, Commander. Admiral, the genocide protocol targets more than human space. Kethvar, Zelani, 3 other species. If this fleet fires on the Thex vessel, the automated systems will interpret it as validation of the extermination order. Static filled the channel for long moments. When Cross spoke again, her voice carried grim understanding. How long until you can neutralize the threat? 4 hours, maybe less. We'll maintain position, Cross decided. But, Commander, if this is deception... It's not. Zelara cut the transmission, surprising herself with the certainty in her voice. She returned to the command center to find Asher deep in the quantum encryption matrices, sweat beading his forehead as he worked. The intimacy of watching him fight to save both their peoples sent heat coursing through her veins. Your fleet trusts you, she observed. They trust my judgment. Different thing. He glanced up, eyes holding hers for a moment that stretched too long. Like you trusted yours when you stopped Voron. I may have doomed my people with that choice. Or saved them. His fingers never stopped moving across the interfaces. Sometimes leadership means making decisions that feel like betrayal. She moved closer, drawn by something in his voice. You sound like you know. 3 years ago, I had to choose between following orders to bombard a civilian station and letting strategic targets escape. His jaw tightened. I chose the civilians, got court-martialed, demoted, nearly ended my career. Yet you're here as a commander. Turns out choosing conscience over convenience impressed the right people. He paused his work to look at her fully. Sometimes the system rewards doing the right thing, sometimes it doesn't, but you can live with the consequences either way. Zelara felt something shift between them, some barrier dissolving in the face of shared understanding. They were both warriors who'd chosen compassion over expedience, duty to life over duty to orders. The primary core, she said suddenly. You mentioned accessing it directly. It's 3 levels down, but the pathway is heavily guarded. Getting there would cut the time in half. His eyes brightened with tactical interest. But I can't fight my way through your security forces. You won't have to. The decision crystallized with startling clarity. I'll take you there myself. Zelara, that's treason, betrayal, a violation of everything my father commanded. She checked her sidearm, ensuring it was fully charged. Also, the only way to save 400 million lives. They moved through service corridors, avoiding main thoroughfares where her increasingly agitated crew might question her actions. The ship's ventilation system carried the whispers of mutiny, officers questioning their war captain's sanity. Your people hate me, Asher observed as they descended through maintenance shafts. They fear you. Fear what you represent. She paused at a junction, listening for patrol sounds. Change, evolution, the possibility that their way of war isn't the only way. And you, what do you fear? The question caught her off guard, forcing honesty she hadn't intended to share. That everything I was taught about strength and honor was wrong. That my father died believing in something that would have made us monsters. They reached the primary core chamber, a vast space filled with quantum processors and holographic data streams. The computational power was staggering, enough to coordinate the extermination of multiple species simultaneously. Beautiful, Asher breathed, already moving toward the central interface. Terrifying but beautiful. Zelara watched him work, noting how his tactical mind adapted to alien technology with disturbing ease. This was why her father had feared humans, not their weapons or numbers, but their ability to evolve, to become whatever they needed to be. There, Asher said after an hour of intense concentration. I can see the primary command structure, but accessing it requires biometric confirmation from the ship's commanding officer. Me. Yes, but Zelara, once you input that confirmation, you'll officially be countermanding your father's final order. There won't be any way to hide what you've done. She looked at the interface, understanding that this moment would define everything that followed. Her reign, her people's future, the galaxy's balance of power, all hanging on a choice between her father's dying hatred and her own evolving conscience. Do it, she said, placing her palm on the scanner. Biometric locks disengaged with soft chimes. Data cascaded through holographic displays as Asher's fingers flew across controls, dismantling the genocidal architecture piece by piece. His voice held warning. She turned to find Voron in the chamber entrance, flanked by 6 armed guards. Her former second-in-command looked haggard, desperate, the kind of desperate that led to irreversible actions. Step away from the console, Voron commanded. By order of the ruling council, you are relieved of command for collaboration with enemy forces. The council hasn't convened. I convened them. Emergency session. Unanimous vote. His weapon trained on her heart. The human dies. The genocide protocol continues. Your father's vision will be honored. Zelara felt time slow as tactical possibilities cascaded through her mind. 6 guards, superior positioning, Asher vulnerable at the console. No clean solution that didn't involve massive casualties. How long? She asked quietly. 30 seconds, Asher replied, understanding immediately. Maybe less. 30 seconds. She could buy him 30 seconds. Vorun, she said, stepping away from Asher and toward the guards. What would my father think of officers who turn weapons on their war captain? He would understand necessity. But uncertainty flickered in Vorun's eyes. You have dishonored everything he built. I've honored the warrior he raised me to be. She continued moving, drawing their attention away from the console. A warrior who protects life, not one who exterminates it. The humans are our enemies. The humans are people, like us, capable of honor, sacrifice, choosing something greater than themselves. She was close enough now to smell Vorun's sweat, see doubt warring with fanaticism in his expression. Done, Asher called. Vorun's head snapped toward the console, weapon swinging away from Zelara. In that instant of distraction, she moved with all the speed and fury that had made her legendary. Her blade found the gap in his armor as his shot went wide, burning across the chamber wall. Chaos erupted, guards shouting, weapons firing, the hum of energy blades cutting through air and flesh. Zelara fought with desperate precision, buying time, creating space, keeping herself between the guards and Asher. Strong arms wrapped around her from behind, pulling her against a solid chest as plasma bolts seared the air where she'd been standing. Asher's warmth surrounded her as he held her, both of them pressed against the central console. The protocol's dead, he said into her ear, voice rough with adrenaline. All of it. The genocide, the purge, everything. She could feel his heartbeat against her back, rapid but steady, could smell leather and determination and something uniquely him. In this moment, pressed together in the aftermath of violence, surrounded by the evidence of her choice, she finally understood what her father had truly feared. Not human tactical brilliance, not their adaptability or technology. He'd feared this, the possibility that his daughter might choose love over hate, evolution over stagnation, hope over the certainty of eternal war. And he'd been right to fear it, because, in Asher's arms, with his breath warm against her neck and his heart beating in rhythm with hers, Zelara finally understood what she'd been fighting for all along. Not victory, not dominance, not even survival, but the chance to become something better than what they'd been. The bridge fell silent as Zelara entered, still wearing armor scored by plasma burns from the core chamber battle. Her remaining officers watched with expressions ranging from horror to grudging respect. She'd killed Vorun in the firefight, not intentionally but inevitably when he'd chosen fanaticism over reason. Status report, she commanded, settling into the command chair that felt both familiar and alien. Genocide protocol has been completely dismantled, reported her navigation officer. All automated systems are now under manual control. The human fleet. Maintaining position, Admiral Cross is requesting communication. Zelara nodded, watching as the main screen filled with Admiral Cross's weathered face. The human commander studied her with calculating eyes that reminded her uncomfortably of her father. War Captain Thex, Commander Kane? Safe. The protocol has been neutralized. Zelara kept her voice steady despite the chaos in her chest. Your people are no longer under threat. And the price for this assistance. The question hung between them like a blade. Around the bridge, Zelara could feel her officer's attention focusing with laser intensity. This moment would define not just the immediate crisis, but the future relationship between their species. No price, Zelara said finally. Conscience requires no payment. Admiral Cross's eyebrows rose slightly. Your father's final command? Was given by a dying man consumed with rage and pain. The words felt like treason, but also like liberation. I choose to honor his life's work protecting our people, not his death's desire for genocide. You realize the political implications. I realize that leadership sometimes requires choosing between what is expected and what is right. Zelara straightened in her chair. Commander Kane will be returned to you within the hour. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Zelara could feel the weight of judgment from her officers, the careful calculations about loyalty and survival. War Captain, her communications officer said carefully, the ruling council is demanding immediate communication. Put them through. The holographic projection materialized, 5 ancient figures who'd served as advisors to her father. Their faces showed varying degrees of outrage and disbelief. War Captain Morvak Thex, the eldest, spoke with formal disapproval. You stand accused of treason, collaboration with enemy forces, and violation of the Supreme Warlord's final directive. I stand accused of preventing the extermination of billions of sentient beings, Zelara replied evenly, including our own people, when other species inevitably united against us in response. The Supreme Warlord's wisdom was compromised by illness and hatred. She rose from her chair, authority radiating from every line of her body. I will not apologize for choosing preservation over destruction. Angry murmurs filled the holographic space. The eldest counselor's eyes narrowed dangerously. You will return immediately for judgment. The fleet will be placed under proper command. No. The simple word carried absolute finality. Around her bridge, Zelara felt her officers shock like a physical pressure. You refuse direct orders from the ruling council? I refuse to lead my people into a war that will destroy everything my father built. Zelara stepped forward, addressing not just the council but every person listening. The humans have proven they can be reasoned with. They've shown honor, sacrifice, tactical brilliance that we can learn from rather than simply fear. This is madness. This is evolution. Her voice carried the steel that had made her father legendary. We can choose to grow beyond our hatred, or we can choose extinction. There is no middle path. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving her bridge in stunned silence. Zelara knew she'd just declared independence from everything that had defined her people's culture for generations. War Captain, her tactical officer said quietly, what are your orders? Before she could respond, the bridge doors opened. Asher entered, flanked by 2 guards who seemed unsure whether he was prisoner or guest. His eyes found hers immediately, and she felt that familiar electricity arc between them. The escort shuttle is prepared, one guard reported. Zelara nodded, then found herself walking toward Asher without conscious decision. The bridge crew watched with fascination as their war captain approached the human who'd changed everything. Your people will be expecting you, she said when they stood close enough to speak privately. They will, and yours will be expecting explanations. I can handle my people. I know you can. His voice dropped to something almost intimate. The question is what happens next. Around them, the bridge buzzed with barely suppressed tension. Officers pretending not to listen while hanging on every word. The weight of 2 civilizations' futures pressing down like a physical force. Next, you return to your fleet, Zelara said, though every word felt like tearing away part of herself. You report that the threat has been neutralized. You recommend against immediate military action while political solutions are explored. And you? I face the consequences of my choices. She met his eyes steadily. I try to convince my people that strength sometimes means knowing when not to fight. Zelara. The way he said her name made her pulse quicken. There's another option. Which is, come with me. The words hit the bridge like a plasma strike. She heard her communications officer's sharp intake of breath, saw her tactical officer's hand move instinctively toward his weapon. The suggestion was so far beyond acceptable that it might as well have been spoken in an alien language. You're asking me to abandon my people. I'm asking you to help build something new. His voice carried conviction that made her chest tight. A bridge between our species. A way forward that doesn't involve mutual destruction. By betraying everything I've sworn to protect? By protecting it in a way no one's ever tried before. He stepped closer, close enough that she could see gold flecks in his brown eyes. Your father's way led to genocide protocols and eternal war. Maybe it's time to try something different. Around them, the bridge held its collective breath. Zelara felt the weight of command, of duty, of a lifetime's conditioning pressing against something newer and more dangerous, the possibility of choice. My people will survive, probably better without a war captain who's willing to commit genocide. His hand moved toward her face, stopping just short of contact. But the galaxy needs someone willing to choose evolution over extinction. And if I'm wrong, if this leads to the destruction of everything my father built, then at least it won't be through the extermination of billions of innocents. His voice gentled. Zelara, some risks are worth taking. She looked around the bridge at officers who'd served her family for decades, at the ship that represented everything she'd been raised to value, at the weight of a culture that might never forgive what she was considering. Then she looked at Asher, at the possibility of something beyond war and hatred and the endless cycle of violence that had defined her people for generations. War Captain, her tactical officer said carefully, your orders? The moment stretched like a blade's edge. Then Zelara reached up and unpinned the insignia that marked her rank, letting them fall to the deck with small metallic sounds. Promote Commander Kethis to acting War Captain, she said, her voice carrying across the stunned bridge. She has authorization to negotiate with the human fleet as she sees fit. You're really doing this, Asher said, something like wonder in his voice. I'm choosing to become something more than what I was raised to be. She turned toward the shuttle bay, feeling lighter with each step away from the command chair. Whether that's evolution or madness remains to be seen. As they walked from the bridge together, Zelara felt Asher's hand slip into hers. The contact sent warmth spiraling through her chest, a promise of possibilities beyond duty and honor and the weight of inherited hatred. Behind them, she could hear her former officers beginning the difficult work of imagining a future without war. Ahead lay uncertainty, political chaos, the challenge of building bridges across species that had been enemies for generations. But in this moment, walking toward an unknown future with the human who'd shown her another way to be strong, Zelara finally understood what her father had truly feared. Not human tactical brilliance or adaptability. He'd feared the possibility that love might prove stronger than hate, that connection might triumph over separation, that his daughter might choose to become something greater than the sum of her inherited conflicts. And as the shuttle bay doors opened before them, revealing stars and infinite possibility, Zelara realized he'd been right to fear it. Because she was about to prove him wrong,